Great. Well, yeah, thank you all for joining today. We obviously continuing our webinars that we do on a weekly basis. We had the idea to basically go through some of the best practices. These are things that we talk a lot about during the implementation. So maybe some of you were part of your implementation with Concord, probably some of you were not because maybe you joined the company later or just weren't part of it. So we thought it might be a good idea to highlight some of the best practices, kind of our recommendations that we have seen work well for other people, their customers. I've been at Concord for over 10 years now. Dakota's been here for a long time. How many years now, Dakota? I don't even know.
Just shy of 3 years.
About 3 years now. So yeah, we both have had a chance to work with a lot of customers and help them to organize and implement and give feedback and do these different things. So today we're going to be talking about some of those best practices in the system. Looks like we've got a good number of people here now, which is great. Just quick way of introduction. I'll start with myself. I'm Zach Kinsey, the head of sales here at Concord. Been with Concord, like I said, about 10 plus years now, and happy to be helping you today. Dakota, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Dakota McDerm. I'm a product manager here at Concord, but I live with one foot in the product org and one foot in the customer success org here at Concord. So I also join calls and work with a lot of our customers. And my current project is heading up all of the feedback for Concord Horizon. So if y'all are using Concord Horizon, our new AI native functionality, and you have any questions, concerns, comments, or wishes, please send them my way.
Yep, absolutely. Um, I was going to add a slide for this, but we'll just talk through it. So the main topics that I want to focus on today, I've got a few different bullet points. So first of all, we're going to be talking about just kind of like proper inbox etiquette, proper folder structures. We'll talk about fields in Concord, how to best manage our fields, also naming conventions for your contracts, save searches and reporting, which is also really important when it comes to just kind of organizing everything and having it all in one place. And there's a couple other small things, but those are kind of the main things that we'll focus today. If you have questions or feedback or comments, please let us know. We do have the chat and the Q&A, so you can ask questions at any point in the process. I am going to be demoing today out of Horizon. I know some of you on this call for sure are still going to be on the classic version of Concord. Things should be relatively the same. The ideas will be the same, definitely the structure ideas as far as organization goes, but just know it'll maybe look a little bit different than what you're used to. So this is the inbox in Horizon. There's a couple different things I want to talk about, and some of these things you may not even know they exist, and that's really the whole idea behind this call. First of all, when it comes to the inbox view itself, this is my demo inbox, which to be honest sometimes drives me crazy because my actual live inbox in Concord is much cleaner and I have much less data there. I do this just so people can kind of understand how it all looks on the demo, but for me, the best practice would be to have, really just the fields here that I absolutely need to have within this view. So if there's things that I don't need, then I can easily come in here and kind of just, take them out, remove them, and really get that view down to something that's super clean. And that way I can be more efficient when I come in and look at my data. The other nice thing about the inbox here is you can add any kind of data field to this view that you would like. Especially with Horizon, but you can come in here and choose from standard data fields. We also have those custom fields, smart fields, etc., that you can add into this view. So if there's certain things that you care about, that maybe fields that your company is keeping track of, you can easily just add those into your inbox view here and be able to really just see that data. Now, when it comes to the actual organization of the inbox and kind of management of the inbox over time, I am an inbox zero person with my email. It drives me crazy to have emails in my inbox at the end of the day. Like I can't do it. I have like a to-do list folder that I use in my email, and I do something similar in Concord. I'm gonna only keep documents in my inbox that I'm actually working on. So the second I sign something and I process it, I'm gonna get it out of my inbox. If I don't need to worry about it for another couple months or something, then I'm going to set a deadline on it and I'm going to get out of the inbox. So that's the way that I have always worked in the system. Kind of when we initially designed the inbox, it was meant to look and feel similar to an inbox, like a Gmail or email inbox, and so that's how I treat it. The nice thing is, so the way that you would do that is once you're done working on something, you can come in here, you can select and you can archive. It's under these three buttons at the top here. That way, you are keeping the document in the repository. You still have it there, but you don't need to see it in your inbox every day when you come in, which is just going to take your attention, even if for a split second. So that's how we would really get down to that inbox zero, is to just really archive and just archive the things you don't need to see. The way that we organize that repository is still going to be done through folders. So that's kind of our main way to organize everything in the tool. And the folders are incredibly important in Concord. They're important for two main reasons. Number one, organization. You want to quickly find something, you should be able to go straight to that folder and find it. Like that's the best way to set up folders, is just do it, based on the organization. And then number two is document access rights. So as we start adding in a bunch of users and groups and teams and different people, we're going to want to be able to easily choose who gets to see what in the system. And we do that based on the folders in the tool. So yes, you can do individual document access in Concord, no problem. But when you're adding thousands of documents and, 10, 20, 50, 100 team members, you're going to want to be able to do that in bulk. And so that's where the folders really come into play. And I'll jump more into those in just a second. Dakota, anything so far? Comments, thoughts?
No, I think one thing to note, if you're worried about archiving, it is an individual function. So you don't need to worry about a document that is shared with you and your team. If your part in it is done and you want to go ahead and archive that document, but you're worried that it may affect someone else's, it won't. It's just you and your specific inbox.
Yep, absolutely. That's a good point because that does come up a lot, and you might worry about like, well, if I archive it, then no one else will see it. But no, it is individual, so that is true. Another thing that I want to point out is the star. So you can star your documents and favor. It's basically favoriting. I do this in my live account with all of our templates. So we have like a bunch of different order forms. We have BAAs, we have NDAs, we have all sorts of different documents. And especially with all the templates, I always add them to my favorites list. So that way, when I need to send something out, I just simply click on favorites. I have a list of all the documents or templates here that I need, and then I can work off those. So finding those is just so much faster if you simply click on that star and then go to your favorites to find them. So you can do that both in Classic and in Horizon. We have the same mechanism. So that's there, which is great. As far as the folder structure is concerned, we do have both main and subfolders in the system. What I have seen is kind of the most effective way to manage folders, and this is actually a topic that people disagree about. I find that if you do it more general, it's actually a little bit better. What I mean by that is contract type, department, um, project, that maybe could be a folder, but typically it's going to be like department, contract type, that type of thing. We do have a lot of customers that will have like many locations, and so they need to separate those folders by location. And then maybe under each location, they have a document type and they have different folders for them. So there's a few different ways to do it. We also have customers, and this is where people have some disagreement. We also have customers who like to do their folders by vendor, and so they'll have a vendor, they'll have a folder for that vendor, and that's how they organize it in the system. I'm not going to say that's wrong. The problem with that is as you start getting a lot of vendors, it can get a little bit messy and a little bit confusing. One thing that we have in Concord, which is great, is that party field. So I can easily come in here and look at the party, and I can filter by party anytime I want to, or counterparty. And so that way, if I wanted to quickly come in and take a look at, hey, what are all my contracts with, Acme or this or that or the other, I can easily come in here and, pull that list up. So you can definitely easily filter by party. My demo account here doesn't have all this. Let me come down to one that I know I have. But basically, you can always filter by that and find the documents that you're looking for that have them in there. But those are some of the different options you have with organizing your documents. So that's there. So that's the filters for the parties, the foldering, and then the inbox here as well. Now, where we actually set up the folders and these different things, I'm going to jump into the settings real quick, and I'm actually going to go into Classic because I want to get the full screen mode. Let me just pull up that. It's just easier to see. So basically, the way that we set this all up in the system is we first will set up our users, which is pretty obvious. So you'll do that either through single sign-on, Active Directory, whatever. You then put them into teams or groups. And one thing I like to tell people when they're setting this up is think about document access when you're setting up these teams or groups. If you have certain people that are more privileged, like a manager or somebody like that, you're going to probably want to put them into a different group. Whereas if you have kind of your just end users where they'll have access to their documents in their department, great, set it up that way. So something to think about when you're setting up your teams. You're also going to set up your roles here. So this is where you can determine what someone can do in the system. We have our standard system roles here. We also have custom roles that you can create. If you want someone just to be able to come in and view documents, great. They can just be a viewer. Otherwise, you'll need to choose what kind of role they have. And then you have your folders here as well, which is where you set up that actual folder structure. So like I said before, the way that we really recommend doing it and the way that most of our customers do it is by department and contract type, that type of things. Like under HR, I have my benefits, recruiting, training. Under finance, I have accounting, audit, and treasury. So you can kind of just break it out based on different topics underneath each of those departments. If you want to do it based on third parties, vendors, whatever. I mean, you could, but this is really kind of the best practices recommendation that we have. So, Dakota, anything you want to add so far on any of this?
Yeah, on the folder side, I think you mentioned it for teams and roles, but just remembering that folders are what is kind of granting the access to that team or to that role. And so, yeah, I will follow up with what Zach says. I do occasionally have a re-implementation call from customers that have been with us for a year and went that vendor route. And now they're at a point a year later where they have too many vendors and the accesses are getting confusing. So I think when you're thinking about setting this up, you want to think about how you want to grant accesses and then think about how it's going to scale. That's an important question.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, when we're setting up the system and, organizing things, it's really about that scalability. So the more we can do to kind of think about that growth beforehand, the better for sure.
Awesome. We
Great.
also have a question here about the inbox and archiving and folders. So the question is there a way to move a document or a contract out of the inbox once I've moved them into a folder without archiving it? And if I have an archive a document, will it move it out of the folder I placed it in? Um, those are great questions. So, when the inbox is going to show all of the documents that you have access to, folders are just a way to kind of filter that down a little bit more. So the inbox is showing kind of across your folders there. When you archive it, if archive documents do not show up in folders, correct?
They do. They show up
Oh,
in
they do?
folders.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
it's
still
just
in the
in the
folder.
archive folder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have
It's
to.
in the
Yeah,
archive stage of the folder, but it's still in a folder. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let me go back to Horizon because it's actually slightly different between Horizon and Classic,
Mhm.
to be honest with you. They did the archive slightly different here, which I think is better in Horizon because it's a little bit easier to understand. But yes, any just by archiving a document, you're not removing the document, you're not taking it out of the system, you're not, putting it into a different place. It's still in the exact same folder it was in before. Archive really just means you're taking it out of your inbox. And I don't like using the term archive. I was trying to get them to switch the term itself because I think it's a little bit I don't know, like move out of inbox, I don't know what the word would be, but archive in Concord just means that we're taking it from the inbox and we're moving it out of the inbox. That's really what it means. So to move it back into the inbox to answer your question, we would actually just unarchive the document, which you can do, and then that moves it back into the inbox. So that's the way to move it in or move it out. So that's that.
Yeah.
I
We've
think I
we've
think
got a
that
few.
answers those questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a few other. If you drag and drop a document, is there a way to save it without saving it in a folder? So your personal folder is kind of the lack of folder there. So you can always, when you're dragging and dropping a document in, you select where it's going to go. And if you don't select a specific folder, it'll just place it in your personal folder up at the top. That does mean that only you or an admin can find that document. So if you are adding a document that you need to share with your team, you need to make sure that you're saving it in a specific folder.
Yeah,
Um,
so with Horizon and with Classic, if you drag and drop into your inbox, which you can do, it will save the document into the system. Horizon's a little bit different because it opens up this document generation screen, which it'll then ask you like which folder you want to put it in and everything. So it's a little bit different in Horizon. It will give you the option to quickly select a folder and do all the different things you need to do. So that makes it pretty easy here. In Classic, it is different. Let me go to Classic real quick because I know a lot of you on this call are still in Classic. So if I drag and drop it to inbox the same way, it actually will just put it straight into the folder. So like I choose what stage I want to put it in, I choose the save as, and then I click upload, and that literally just puts it into the inbox, and it does automatically put it into my personal folder. So.
mhm.
So like that
And if
document is now here, and as you can see, the folder it's in is personal folder, and then I can move it somewhere else if I wanted to.
also, if you have a folder open and you drag and drop, it'll automatically save it into that folder that's open.
Yes, that is correct too. Yep. So if I go to accounting, I drag and drop it here, upload, then it'll put it in there. Yep, right there. Um, So Horizon, like I mentioned, Horizon's a little bit different where it's gonna always ask you which folder to put it into. We don't have the dragon, which honestly I think Horizon is the better way because that way you're not forgetting. Like I even do this sometimes where I upload a document into Concord and I forget that it's not being put into a folder when I was in Classic, and then I would come back and try to find it later, or someone else would search for it and they can't find it because it's in my personal folder. So then I would go to my personal folder, I'd clean it out, I'd have to move everything to the right places. So really the best practice is what we do with Horizon, which is immediately as soon as you upload it, we ask you, okay, where do you want to put this? And then you just put it into the
Mhm.
right folder. So I would recommend don't keep anything in your personal folder unless it's like a draft of something you really don't want anyone to see. Otherwise, if you leave the company or something happens, like no one's going to be able to find it because it's in your personal folder. It's not in one of the actual folders in the system. So yeah, Horizon, very simple, drag and drop, choose a folder you want it to live in. You know, you can choose how you want to upload it, what stage, doc type, things like that, and then it'll just save it into the system. So it's a little bit easier here, but yeah. When using the new document button, it's so depends. That's another like, okay, there's a lot of different workflows. Good question. So if you're using the new document button the way that I use it, which is to have the drop down here, once you create your document, you do still have to put it into a folder. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Right now I've got blank doc. I can drag and drop this in. I can say, hey, live document mode, whatever, but I haven't actually put it into a folder yet. So if I come up here to the folder, it's still in my personal folder, which means I need to move it. So if you're doing it through just create document, upload, you do need to make sure to put it into a folder. The other option is if you're using the document builder, which a lot of people use, and let's say I want to send something for draft and sign, I'm going to upload my document. I'm going to drag and drop it here, live mode. Then it's going to ask me to, select like, okay, which folder do you want to put it into? So there's a couple different paths depending on if you're in Classic, if you're in Horizon. Horizon, I think, is the simplest and the cleanest, but we have a few different paths here with the Classic. So, so yeah, great questions. I know there were some other questions here too. Let me get back to those real quick. In the Q&A, do you see those? Dakota?
Y- Yes. Yeah, so we have if you've done it by vendor, you can remove, oh yeah, how big of a task is it to move things around? So um there are bulk options for moving things from a folder to another folder. And if you do need to rework your folder structure, it can be a daunting task to tackle on your own. If it is something that you're wanting to do, please reach out to us and we're happy to help you come up with a plan. But as Zach is demonstrating here, we do have bulk actions that make the moving around pretty easy. So once we create kind of the new folders that you want things in, migrating things over is not difficult.
Yeah, so you can come in any folder you have, you can select all and then click move, and then you can choose which folder you want that to go into. So you can bulk move documents from folder to folder. It's pretty quick to kind of move things around. Usually doesn't take too much time, depending on how many things you have there. But um, there's another question here, so thank you for that question. Another question, could we think of all of departments like our current folder types, such as contract amendment, fee schedules, billing, updates, newsletters, etc.? Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would do that based on department as the main folder, and then I'd have subfolders for those types of things. So I would do a main folder for marketing, a main folder for sales, for procurement, for IT, for legal, and then I would have doc types underneath those. That's how I see a lot of our customers do it, and I think it works pretty well. Um, and then I've got a question about deadlines, which I promise I do see, and I will get back to that here in just a second. I just want to hit a couple of last things on best practices first. So, another thing that I like to talk about is naming conventions. It's really funny when we very first started Concord, many years ago, like this always came up. Everyone was always like, "What's the naming convention? What's the best way to do way to do this?" And it just always came up. Today, it doesn't come up as often, and I don't know why that is. Maybe just people have kind of figured it out. But the way that we do our internal naming conventions at Concord is we do document type first, and then we do vendor name. So it's like mutual NDA vendor name. Concord order form vendor name. So we keep it pretty simple. We just try to make it that way, if you want to quickly look through a list and say like, okay, these are all my order forms, and then these are who the order form is with, or this is an amendment to the order form, and then this is who it's with. That's how we typically do our naming conventions. Um, I like to do when I'm doing like renewal orders, I like to add the year at the end. So if someone's doing a renewal or a plan change, I just like to do contract type, vendor, and then the year that that thing is happening. So those are some of the naming conventions we use. A lot of our customers I see do the same thing. But it's really up to you. You probably at this point have figured something out, or if you haven't, that is what I would recommend. It's just the easiest way to keep track of it. So that's naming conventions. So we talked about inbox, we talked about folders, we talked about naming conventions. This could be a 2 hour long webinar, I'm realizing, Dakota, because we're just barely touching the surface here. Let's get into fields. So a really big part of making sure the system is organized with the best data is the actual fields that are in the data itself. So to do that, and I'll show you where this is located inside of Classic. You click on the little lightning bolt here under automations to get into your list of fields. In Horizon, it's in a slightly different place. It's down here in the settings. And then once you're in settings, we have actually added all those field options to this one central place. So we have here, you can see you've got your like account and company, and then at the bottom, you have all your fields. So yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about here. Maybe we'll do a second webinar on this, but because I'm thinking like of approvals and party libraries and all these things. But for right now, I want to mainly talk about smart fields and custom properties. So a big part of your contract management system is the metadata in the system and how we're going to report on that data, manage that data. Good data in means good data out. Bad data in means bad data out. So we try to have as much good data in the system as we possibly can. As you know, with our AI plans, you're going to have a lot of that data being extracted automatically using our AI. So there are a good number of fields there: party name, start dates, end dates, renewals, total contract value. There's certain things that are going to come out with every document that you upload. But what we recommend doing is also having some additional fields there. We definitely don't have time to go into all this today. But smart fields, just so you know, are fields that you're going to be adding into a template in the system. So it's a field that you create, you put it into a template, and it's a fillable field basically. So they're preset fields that you can add in there. So that's what a smart field is. Smart fields can get added to all the reporting in different places in the system. Now, one of the most important fields in Concord is actually our custom properties. So custom properties are fields that you can create and customize in the tool. Let me see if I can find a multi-select here. And so this is a field type where you can create them and then add them to the actual summary sheet of the contract. I'm constantly getting people asking me about, hey, how do I keep track of this or that or the other? Maybe I want to know who the contacts are at this company, or maybe I want to, I mean, there's just so many different things people want. And so the cool thing is, if it's not a field that already lives in Concord, you can just create that field. That's what the custom properties are for. And so you'll create it as a custom property. You'll choose the exact field type that you want to generate, and there's a lot of them. So we've got like short text, long text, numbers, single, multi, dates, date, time, yes, no, currency, select a user, and I think that's the bottom, Dakota. We need to fix that.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but basically, you've got a lot of different options here, and so you'll kind of just choose which option makes most sense for the field type that you're creating, and then you'll get that created as a field in the system. So then when I'm in my individual documents here, let me just pull into one of these real quick. And let's go to this one. So when I'm in the document, I'm then able to set up all of that, all those different fields. So for example, here I've got my custom properties. I can come in here and I've got this one selected. It's a multiple choice for risk level of the contract. And so now I can go ahead and fill that out. And the cool thing about risk level is I can add it to my inbox. I can add it to my reporting. I can filter by that. So it just makes it really powerful to be able to add the data and then get to the data the way that you need to see it in the system. So that is your custom property. I had a question earlier about how to set up deadline alerts, reminders, all those things in the tool. The system will automatically extract all the lifecycle data using our AI. You can also come in and manually input that data in the system as well. So you've got like signing date, effective date, duration, renewal information, and then early termination notice. That's all going to be here in the system. So once that data is set, Concord will automatically send out your weekly deadline reminder. And the way it works is once a week, you'll get a deadline that looks like this, and it'll show you everything that's coming due in the near future. So you'll have that weekly email that gets sent out from the tool. And then you also, inside of Concord, have your calendar deadline view, which will show you like a list of all the deadlines for that month, or you can see it in calendar view here. And you could even sync that with your own calendar. So just to answer your question, all that is here. It's all ready to go. We can definitely help you get that set up if you have questions. So just let us know. I feel like we rushed through that and we didn't even get to half the stuff. So, Dakota,
No.
we have 1 minute left. Anything else you want to add?
I would just say, yeah, if y'all have additional questions on this, please reach out because we have calls like this all day, every day, and are happy to jump in and talk more about your specific use cases, in your account. And so whether you're brand new to Concord and you're working with our onboarding team, or if you have been around a little while and you want to talk to a CSM, let us know.
Yeah, and if you can't tell, this stuff is exciting to us. I'm not sick of it even after 10 years. So, this is something that is great. Hopefully you learned something today, maybe about, I don't know, archiving or inbox maintenance or something with favoriting. So just let us know if you have additional follow-up questions. We probably will we have another
Yeah,
webinar
well,
on this tomorrow afternoon, and I will tell you every webinar goes completely different. So if you want to tune into that, feel free. Um, and then, yeah, maybe we'll do another follow-up one on we'll probably do one specifically on like field types and how to manage that in the
yes.
system as well. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all. Sorry if we were kind of all over the place today, but hopefully you learned something and have a good rest of the day.